All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're not just looking at a movie star. Nope, we're going to deconstruct an entire institution. We're talking about the architectural blueprint of Tom Cruise. And let's just start with this. This seismic statement from one of the greatest directors of all time to, well, Hollywood's most durable star. I mean, this wasn't just a pat on the back. It was basically a coronation. So that raises a huge question, right? How did one guy become the savior of an entire industry? Look, a career like this doesn't just happen by accident. It was built piece by meticulous piece, with a very clear, very deliberate design. So if we really want to get what makes him tick, we need to dig deep. We need to excavate the actual foundational pillars of his success, from his incredibly chaotic childhood all the way to his calculated, death-defying risks. Okay, let's dive right in, because the story, it doesn't start with all the Hollywood glamour you'd expect. Nope, it starts with some deep, serious instability. That phrase right there, that is what Tom Cruise called his own father. He grew up in a home that was tense, abusive, and just completely unpredictable. Stability was not in the vocabulary. And that chaos at home, it meant they were always on the move. The family moved so often that by the time he was a teenager, Tom had been to 15 different schools in 14 years. Just let that sink in for a second. So here's the key takeaway, right? That complete lack of control as a kid, it became the very furnace that forged his legendary, almost obsessive discipline. It created this intense, lifelong need to control every single variable around him. Okay, so you have this intense need for control. How does that show up in your career? Well, he immediately used it to build out the first and maybe the most important phase of his career, a deliberate apprenticeship with the absolute masters of filmmaking. I mean, after Top Gun blew up, he could have just cashed in, right? Done a bunch of sequels, easy money. But instead, he made a very conscious choice. He went on this unbelievable tour, working with a who's who of 8, count 'em, 8, Academy Award-winning directors to build rock-solid artistic credibility. And this right here just perfectly sums up his unique spot in Hollywood. In the exact same year, 1988, he's the star of the Best Picture Oscar winner and the Worst Picture Razzie winner. He could be both the critical darling and the popcorn guilty pleasure all at the same time. I mean, who else does that? But right when it seemed like he had total, absolute control over his career, his image, everything, the whole thing just came crashing down. The foundations of the entire structure were shaken. And it happened so fast, it was dizzying. First, his publicist of many, many years, the person who guarded his image, is gone. Then, boom, the Oprah couch jump. The intense Matt Lauer interview, it just snowballed. Until, and this was unthinkable at the time, Paramount, his home studio for 14 years, publicly cuts him loose. And the damage? Oh, it wasn't just talk. It was real. You could measure it. His Q rating, which is basically an industry score for how much people like you, dropped by a massive 40%. 40%. That's a catastrophic number for a celebrity. You know, this whole public meltdown really pulled back the curtain on something that had been operating in the background for years. It showed everyone how the controversial Church of Scientology had become his new core support system, replacing the traditional Hollywood machine he once had around him. So, how do you possibly come back from that? A total collapse of your public image. Well, he rebuilt by doubling down on the one thing, the only thing that nobody could take from him and that he could control completely: his own body. So he goes to the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa, and he doesn't just film a scene there. Oh no, he actually climbs the outside of it. He scaled the glass 2,700 feet up in the air. Then he literally straps himself to the outside of a giant military plane while it takes off. We're talking winds hitting him at 160 miles per hour. No green screen, that was all real. And get this, for just one stunt, the motorcycle cliff jump in Dead Reckoning, he did over 13,000 practice motocross jumps. The story became less about the stunt itself and more about the insane, almost unbelievable level of preparation. And this is where you see it's not just about being a daredevil. There's a whole system here, a machine-like precision behind it all. It's fueled by this incredibly strict 1,200-calorie anti-inflammatory diet and wild recovery methods like cryotherapy and cold plunges, all designed to let him perform like an elite athlete well into his 60s. So this absolutely incredible pivot, right, from movie star to a physical marvel, it let him build his final role, and maybe his biggest one yet, savior of cinema. Okay, picture this. The pandemic hits. The world shuts down. Studios are panicking, selling off their biggest movies to streaming for huge paychecks. But not Cruise. He got 9-figure offers for Top Gun Maverick, and he said no. He bet everything, on the idea that people would come back to the movie theater. And boy, did that bet pay off. Top Gun Maverick pulled in nearly $1.5 billion around the world. It was just this stunning vindication, proof that yes, if you give people a real cinematic event, they will absolutely show up for it. So that leaves us with this one big final question. His entire career is this incredible masterclass in control, in risk, and just sheer force of will. But is he truly the last of his kind, a relic of a bygone era? Or did he create this perfect blueprint for superstardom that is just so demanding, so completely all-consuming that nobody else has the will, or maybe the insanity, to even try to follow it?